You're 32 years old with a freshly printed PhD in clinical psychology and enough student debt to buy a small yacht. You rent a cramped office in a strip mall between a nail salon and a vape shop. The walls are so thin you can hear every argument, every breakup, every midday crisis happening next door. Your leather couch came from a liquidation sale and smells faintly of someone else's problems. But hey, you've got your own practice. You're living the dream, right? Wrong. Turns out nobody wants therapy from a guy whose credentials are still warm from the printer. Your client roster is a graveyard of canceled appointments and insurance rejections. Last month, you saw exactly 4 patients. This month, 3. Your landlord just raised the rent, your car is making a noise that sounds expensive, and your girlfriend left you for a personal trainer who apparently has his life together. You're drowning in a very specific kind of failure. The kind where you're supposed to help people fix their lives while yours collapses in slow motion. Then Marcus walks in. Mid-40s, tailored suit, Rolex that costs more than your entire education. He sits down and immediately starts talking about his anxiety, his insomnia, his fear that his business partners are plotting against him. You're nodding, taking notes, doing the whole active listening routine, but your brain is doing math. This guy's watch could cover 3 months of rent. His shoes could handle your car repair. And he's here, in your bargain basement office, spilling his guts because the fancy therapists uptown were booked solid. The session goes well. He books another appointment, then another. Within a month, Marcus is your most reliable client, showing up every Tuesday like clockwork. He trusts you. He tells you things he's never told anyone. The shady real estate deals, the offshore accounts, the business partner he's planning to force out through some creative contract manipulation. You're his confessor, his sounding board, his emotional dumpster. And you're just happy someone's paying your bills on time. 6 months in, everything changes. Your landlord doesn't just raise the rent this time, he doubles it. Apparently, the strip mall's getting renovated, going upscale. You've got 30 days to come up with an extra $2,000 per month, or you're out. You look at your bank account. You look at your client list. The math doesn't work. You're 3 weeks away from operating your practice out of a Starbucks, taking notes on napkins. That night, you can't sleep. You're staring at the ceiling, running through options. Take out another loan? You're already buried. Move back in with your parents? They're in a retirement community in Florida that doesn't allow guests over 48 hours. Find a roommate for your office? That's definitely illegal. Your mind spins through increasingly desperate scenarios until it lands somewhere it absolutely shouldn't. Marcus told you things. Specific things. Things that his business partners definitely don't know. Things that would make certain legal authorities very interested. Things that are all documented in your session notes because you're thorough and professional and took detailed records like they taught you in grad school. You sit up. Your heart's hammering. You're actually considering this. You're actually thinking about blackmailing your own patient. The ethical violation is so massive, it has its own gravitational field. You could lose your license. You could go to jail. You could become the exact kind of predator you're supposed to protect people from. But then you think about the debt, the eviction notice, the reality that in 3 weeks, you won't have a practice to lose a license over anyway. Desperation has this funny way of making terrible ideas sound almost reasonable. You spend the next hour pacing your apartment, arguing with yourself, trying to find another option. There isn't one. Or maybe there is, and you're just too panicked to see it. Either way, by sunrise, you've made a decision that will absolutely destroy you. You're just not sure if it'll destroy you slowly through poverty or quickly through prison. You write the email on a burner account. Nothing explicit, nothing that screams extortion. Just a friendly note suggesting that Marcus might want to have a conversation about certain sensitive topics from our sessions, and that perhaps a consulting fee would be appropriate for your continued discretion. You read it 40 times. Each time it sounds more insane. But your finger hovers over the send button anyway. The thing about crossing lines is they don't feel as solid as you expect. You always imagine there'll be this moment of dramatic moral clarity, this obvious point where you're choosing between good and evil. But it's not like that. It's just you, exhausted and terrified, clicking a button because every other option feels worse. The email sends. You close the laptop. You don't feel like a villain. You just feel tired. Marcus responds within an hour. He wants to meet. Not at your office, somewhere public. A coffee shop downtown. His message is calm, almost friendly, but you can read between the lines. He knows exactly what this is. You've just opened a door you can't close. Started a conversation that only ends one way. As you get dressed for the meeting, your hands won't stop shaking. You walk into the coffee shop and Marcus is already there. Corner booth, back to the wall, clear sight lines to both exits. He's not dressed like your anxious patient anymore. Today, he looks like what he actually is. Someone who solves problems for people who create bigger problems. He doesn't stand, doesn't smile, just gestures to the seat across from him. You sit down and immediately realize you've made a catastrophic miscalculation. This isn't a negotiation, this is an exit interview. Marcus slides a folder across the table. Inside are printouts, your bank statements, your browser history, photos of your apartment building, a copy of your lease. He's done more homework on you in 6 hours than you did on him in 6 months. You're broke, he says. Not a question, just stating facts. You try to say something professional, something that establishes boundaries, but your voice cracks halfway through and what comes out sounds like a dog trying to speak Portuguese. Marcus leans back. I'm not mad. Honestly, I respect the hustle. Takes balls to blackmail someone who confessed to multiple felonies. Stupid balls, but balls. He orders 2 coffees from a passing waiter without asking what you want. The gesture is so casually dominant, it makes your stomach turn. Here's what's going to happen, he continues. You're going to delete every note from our sessions. You're going to forget every word I said. And in exchange, I'm going to forget this little email ever existed. Go back to your regular life of slowly drowning in debt, but at least not getting disappeared by the mob. But Marcus isn't done. Or, he says, and that single word drops the temperature in the room by 20 degrees. You come work for us. Your brain completely stops processing information. Those 4 words don't make sense in any order that results in you staying alive. Work for you? We need someone like you. Someone who understands people. Someone who can read a room, predict behavior, get inside someone's head. He sips his coffee like he's discussing a job opening at a marketing firm. Plus, you're already compromised. You sent that email. You crossed the line. Might as well get paid for it. This is insane. This is genuinely, certifiably insane. You're a therapist. You help people process childhood trauma and navigate relationship issues. You don't work for criminals, except you literally just tried to blackmail one, so maybe your moral high ground isn't as elevated as you thought. I can't, you say. I have a practice. I have clients. I have a license. You have debt, Marcus corrects. Debt that's going to bury you in 3 weeks. We both know how this ends if you stay on your current path. You lose everything anyway. He's not wrong. That's the worst part. He's absolutely not wrong. What would I even do? Consult. We bring you people, you evaluate them. Tell us if they're lying, if they're reliable, if they're going to crack under pressure. It's basically what you already do, just with different stakes. Different stakes. That's one way to describe the difference between helping someone overcome social anxiety and vetting potential informants for a criminal organization. And if I say no? Marcus shrugs. Then you say no. I'm not threatening you. I'm offering you an opportunity. You walk out of here, delete your notes, we never speak again. You go back to your life. He makes it sound so reasonable, so simple. Just a choice between 2 equally valid options. But you've been a therapist long enough to recognize manipulation when you see it. There's no real choice here. He's already demonstrated he knows everything about you. The message is clear. You're either useful or you're a liability, and only one of those categories gets to keep breathing. How much? You hear yourself ask. Marcus smiles for the first time. Enough to clear your debt in 6 months. Enough to actually build something instead of just treading water. The number he names is obscene. It's more than you'd make in 3 years of legitimate practice. It's enough to not just survive, but actually live. You should say no. You should walk out. You should report this conversation to someone, though you're not entirely sure who you'd even call. The ethics board? The police? And tell them what exactly? That you tried to blackmail a patient who then offered you a job? I need to think about it. You have until tomorrow, Marcus says, standing up. After that, the offer expires and we go back to pretending this conversation never happened. He drops a 50 on the table for 2 coffees that cost $8 and walks out. You sit there for another hour, staring at the folder of your life reduced to data points and vulnerabilities. Every rational part of your brain is screaming at you to run. But there's this other voice, quieter but more insistent, doing math. By the time you leave, you already know. By the time you leave, you already know what your answer's going to be. You text Marcus the next morning, 1 word. Yes. Within an hour, you're in a different coffee shop across town. This time, he's brought someone else, a woman in her 40s with the kind of face that's seen things she'll never talk about. She introduces herself as Rivera. No first name, just Rivera. We're going to start small, she says, sliding a photo across the table. This is Miguel, street dealer, low level. Got picked up last week, made a deal with the prosecutor, says he'll testify against his supplier in exchange for reduced charges. You look at the photo. Kid can't be more than 22. You're going to interview him. Tell us if he's actually going to testify or if he's playing both sides. If he's solid, we leave him alone. If he's planning to flip back, we need to know before the trial. Your stomach turns. And then what happens to him? Rivera's expression doesn't change. That's not your department. You just tell us what you see. We handle the rest. The compartmentalization is built right into the job description. You don't have to pull any triggers. You just read people and report back. It's not that different from writing clinical assessments, really. Except those assessments determine treatment plans, not whether someone lived or died. But you don't say that part out loud. The interview happens in a warehouse on the industrial side of town. Miguel sits across from you, handcuffed to a chair that's bolted to the floor. His leg bounces constantly. Classic anxiety tells. You start with basic questions. Background, family, how he got into dealing. You're watching everything. His eye contact patterns, his breathing rate, the micro-expressions that flash across his face before he controls them. He's terrified. That much is obvious. But terrified of what? The cartel? Prison? The testimony itself? You ask him about the trial. He says he's ready, that he wants to do the right thing. But his pupils dilate when he says it. His hands clench. He's lying, but not about whether he'll testify. He's lying about wanting to. Why are you really doing this? You ask. He breaks, starts crying, says his girlfriend is pregnant, that the prosecutor promised to help her get into a protection program if he cooperates. He's not doing it because he wants to be a witness. He's doing it because it's the only way to save her. That's real. That's the truth underneath everything else. You write your assessment. Miguel will testify. He's motivated by love, not revenge or self-preservation, which makes him more reliable than someone acting out of anger. He'll hold up under cross-examination because he's not performing. He's genuinely trying to protect someone. Rivera reads your report and nods. Good work. Miguel lives. She says it so casually, like she's commenting on the weather. You just saved someone's life with a psychological evaluation. It should feel good. It doesn't. It feels like you've crossed a line drawn in sand that you can't see anymore. The jobs keep coming. Sometimes it's evaluating potential recruits. Sometimes it's profiling witnesses. Once, you interview a cop they suspect is undercover. You determine he's legitimate, just corrupt, which apparently makes him useful rather than dangerous. The money hits your account like clockwork. You pay off your credit cards, you pay off your student loans, you stop eating ramen and start sleeping through the night. Your practice picks up because you're not radiating desperation anymore. Clients actually start referring their friends. 6 months in, you've built a completely separate life. By day, you're Dr. James Carter, licensed therapist, helping people work through their problems. By night, you're something else entirely, a ghost consultant for an organization you're careful never to name. Marcus checks in monthly. The meetings are always brief, always professional. He asks if you're okay. You always say yes. You're not sure either of you believes it. The real problem isn't the work itself. You're good at it. Disturbingly good. The problem is how easy it becomes. How quickly you stop flinching at the implications. How naturally you slip between your two worlds. Your legitimate clients talk about their anxiety, their depression, their relationship problems. You listen, you empathize, you help. Then you drive across town and use those exact same skills to determine whether someone's lying to a cartel. The cognitive dissonance should be unbearable. Instead, it just becomes background noise. You're at a session with a regular client, a college student with social anxiety, when you get the text. It's a number you don't recognize. Need you at the warehouse. Now. Emergency evaluation. You wrap up the session early, apologizing about a family emergency. The lie comes so smoothly, you barely register you're telling it. You drive to the warehouse thinking about how you got here. Every choice made sense in isolation. Every step felt justified in the moment. But somehow, you've traveled from drowning in debt to being an essential part of a criminal infrastructure. And you can't identify the exact moment you stopped being able to turn back. The warehouse door is open. You walk in expecting another interview. Instead, you find Marcus sitting in that bolted-down chair, blood running down his face. Rivera is standing over him, gun in hand. She looks at you. We need to know if he's DEA. You've got 5 minutes. You stare at Marcus, the man who recruited you, the man who saved you from financial ruin, the man whose secrets started this whole nightmare. Blood drips from his split lip onto his expensive suit. His eyes meet yours, and you see something you've never seen in him before. Actual fear. Rivera cocks the gun. Clock's ticking, Doc. Your hands are shaking. This isn't reading someone to predict testimony. This is determining whether Marcus lives or dies in the next 5 minutes. Every skill you've spent years developing, every technique you've used to help people and hurt people, comes down to this single assessment. You pull out your chair, sit down across from him, try to find your voice. Marcus, you say quietly, I need you to tell me the truth. He looks at you like he's seeing you for the first time. Not as his employee, not as his asset, just as the desperate therapist he met in a strip mall office who made one terrible choice that led to 1,000 more. And you realize with perfect, crystalline clarity that it doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter what you conclude. You've been playing a game where the only winning move was never to start playing at all. Rivera's finger tightens on the trigger. Your assessment is due. Whatever you say next writes the ending to a story that began the moment you sent that blackmail email. The thing about crossing lines is eventually you run out of places left to stand. You opened your mouth to speak, but you've already forgotten what truth even sounds like.